Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are here for another amazing episode of the All I Do Is Win podcast from the Center of Male Engagement at Pierce College. Can we put our hands together in the room, y'all? I'm so glad to have this conversation today. It's going to be super dope, but I can't begin this podcast episode without speaking to the angel of this particular business who welcomed us to come into her space and share the access for us. And this isn't our first time. I'm not going to act like this is new. We've been here before, and we're back again. And it's due to 387 Grooming.
Yes.
And I think this space is so amazing. It always feels welcoming. Any man that I've ever met that's come into this space said they feel like they're being healed already as soon
Good.
as they come in the door. And I think it's so phenomenal. Kiki,
Yeah,
tell us a little more about the business, your heart behind it, so that anyone who's listening can kind of know about like what's happening here
for sure.
and why, your
Okay.
why.
So yes, this is my business, 387 Grooming. We're located in the Germantown section of Philadelphia, where we cater to men's skincare needs through grooming, through mental health and wellness services. We're going into our fourth year of business. Yes, thank you very much. And we have so much more to bring, different services. We're definitely tapping into more mental health opportunities for the community. I recently became certified as a first aid mental health advocate. So now I'm able to get out into the community and help more men and women suffering from mental health.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. That's phenomenal. I think it's something that we spoke about on other episodes. Is just the needs for men to be locked in on that.
Yes.
Could you tell us really quickly? And I know I didn't tell you. I was going to ask you this, but I know you have so much history of doing this work, and so many men that have come through and have gotten so much value out of this space. Can you tell us a little bit about just some of the experiences you've seen
Yeah.
of men having turnarounds or just benefits
Mhm.
beyond just their skin looking a little more
Yeah.
what do you call it? More glowy. I don't
Yeah,
know. Is
more
it?
hydrated, more
Yeah, there we go.
healthy.
There we
Yeah.
go.
So definitely by our services through the skincare needs of being a licensed esthetician, we've helped to build confidence in our clientele by them learning the proper skincare routine, the products that they should be using, versus not being educated when they first initially come in. It's actually helped to turn their confidence around. They're feeling better about themselves on the outside, and then we start to work on things that they're going through internally also.
Nice, nice. Well, I can absolutely say it's been a while. I'm overdue for a session, but I think the session that I had that I will
Yeah,
always come back for is the King something. The,
Deluxe King.
the Lux King. Listen, if you come to 387 Grooming, I'll say this: when you come,
Yes,
Deluxe King yourself.
yes, yes.
Your skin will thank you.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, I thank you for allowing us here once again. And if everybody in the room could just put their hands together once again. If everybody in the room again could put their hands together once again. We have a live studio audience, y'all. We just got to make sure everybody's on the same page. But thank you again, and
Yes,
we look
my
forward to the next time.
pleasure.
Indeed.
Thank you so much.
The kids are different. Like these kids aren't raising themselves because when you see their parents, I asked a friend of mine, I was like, when we bring recruits on campus, if they show up late, like they're coming with their parents and they show up late, like that's an immediate red flag. 'Cause it's like they probably not prompt because the people raising them probably not prompt. But it's parents parents fighting in public, parents getting on refs at 6-year-old game. It's the adults that are driving this thing, man. Like it's
All right, so we're back. Listen, everybody, put your hands together for this episode once again. So glad to have everybody in the room today. We have a live studio audience with us of some peer students who decided to join and be a part of this experience today. And we'll see if we get to a Q&A section. But for now, we already just met the owner. And something that I didn't talk to her about, but I kind of want to build off of is the idea that you have to be able to imagine something in order to bring it to fruition. And that's the muscle of what purpose brings, right? The fact that she had a heart behind creating a space for male wellness, that was something that was within her as a frustration, as something that was disrupted, that she found a way to internalize, to change into something that that we're now sitting in right now, right? And there's a story that I read about two architects. It's a little bit of like an Aesop style story, so bear with me.
We are in an academic space. So,
yeah, it's like
absolutely.
Aesop fable style. But the two architects, right? One architect, both of them had the same bricks, the same straw, the same tools, but they both had a task of creating a structure.
Okay.
The first one built a structure that was built pretty quickly. Like he said, "Oh, I know how to build. I'm gonna rock out," and he built up a structure right away. Got it done, and it was affirmed, and it was approved, and it was done. The second architect took a little bit of a different approach and said, "Let me step back and let me look at what hasn't been created yet." And when he stepped back, he had a different idea of building a structure that curved, that looked as if it was going up to the sky. And it took a little bit more time. It took a little bit more planning. But over time, the same tools, the same stones, all of the same everything was used to make something completely different. Now, fast forward years later, the building that looked like everybody else's building kind of became forgotten because it looked like everything else that was around.
Absolutely.
While the building that was made differently still is looked at as an amazing structure. And we have different structures that fit this mold right now. As we look at across the world, we have the Leaning Tower of Pisa. You know, we have
That's good.
In France, we have with the Eiffel Tower, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
I'll even as a New Yorker, I can't not talk about the Twin Towers. Regardless of how they ended, they still were a staple of New York infrastructure and someone wanting to think outside of the box, to do something different. And structures that are built differently will never be forgotten. But the ones that are done with standard mindsets, standard thoughts, tend to be kind of just thrown into the mix of just another one.
Absolutely.
It's just another one, right? I want us to kind of begin to talk today around that springboard of, if we all have the same ingredients, and I want us to kind of like ground this, not in the standpoint of gifts, talents, and abilities,
Okay.
but I want us to look at this in terms of time.
Okay.
If we all have 24 hours in a day, if we all have 7 days in the week, some of us are building our weeks, our days with a standard mindset. I'm just going to go to work. I'm going to go to lunch. I'm going to go home. I'm going to take care of the family a little bit. I'm going to do some schoolwork or not. I'll put it off to the next day.
Right.
And then we up again. Same thing over and over and over again. But some people are saying, what am I going to build today that won't be forgotten? What am I going to do this week that's going to change the rest of my life? What am I going to do this month that's going to create the space for someone else to stand in my vision, to sit in my dream? And that's what we're in right now at 387 Grooming. But I kind of want us to, I'm going to pass it over to you. What kind of thoughts do you have when it comes to us as people being able to utilize what we have toward what we have within us?
I love that, Terrence. And I think that the question, I kind of want to go back a little bit.
Let's go.
I think what...
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Let me. There's something that I didn't do.
Yeah.
That we should have done, and that's to welcome you to the podcast.
Absolutely. But we get into it early, Rich. It'll come back out.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
We'll edit it.
So today we have Anthony Jones with us. Anthony, thank you for joining us today.
Anytime, brother. Anytime.
And if you could please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. And then I want to get back to that because I think it's rich.
We will, absolutely.
So Anthony Jones, first and foremost, a father of three beautiful children, educator, mentor, coach. Right now, currently serve as a professor for Rutgers University. So the academic space is really where my purpose is at during this season. But my purpose, I think, where God has really directed me over the years is just really serving young people. And I also would like to say, when I say young people, I don't necessarily mean chronologically age-wise, but people that have a young heart to want to learn. So that's just a little bit about myself. Nice. And I'm just excited to be here at on the podcast today.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
So I want to go back because I think something that you mentioned really touched, I think, both of us being fathers, right? I think when you have kids, you can give them the same material, right? It could be at the beach. I took my kids to the beach last week. We were down in Orlando. Very privileged to do that. But they had the same materials. They had sand, they had a bucket, and they had a shovel, right? And I just looked at them, and two young individuals grow up in the same household, right? Same dad, same mom, same grandparents, right? But once that project was finished, it looked totally different, right? My daughter had seashells on it.
Yeah.
My son did a little fort, right?
Okay.
So, and the amazing thing is that I think as fathers, because we're here, talking definitely about, I think, especially Black fathers, is it's so important to be able to pour into our kids and give them those tools. But once you give them the tools, you got to allow them to use that imagination and creativity of what they have inside them to actually put something together, right? So it's important for us to step back, right, in those moments when they have those tools and allow them to build, right, what they have in them. So I think for me, when you're talking about, even for 387 Grooming, right, the imagination, there was something in the owner and Kiki to be able to say, hey, there's a need there, right? And I think that's something that, Terrence, you've done, something that I've done, like, what is that need? But I really think you really have to, I like to say with purpose. A lot of times I hear that purpose, Professor Jones, how do I get my purpose? And I really think it's a spiritual thing. You really have to be aligned, right? What is God's purpose for you, right? Because you could do your own thing, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're working in your God-given purpose. So I'll leave that.
Nah, yeah. And I like that. And I think on one of the other episodes, we spoke about how the person, the being of person is not one-dimensional. We're mind, we're body, and we're spirit.
Yes.
And so often we have framework on how to be well physically. We have framework to be well mentally.
Yes.
But we're kind of just no holds barred when it comes to the spirit lane. And what I think you just created was a lane of awareness of how to be successful for yourself spiritually. And that is phenomenal. That's powerful. But it's also something that all of us have within us that's either cultivated or uncultivated or undercultivated.
Absolutely.
Where that's being, something that's left. And I think that sometimes when we talk about living toward a purpose or living toward a vision, sometimes it's hard to do that when you don't have a framework that's within you where you're operating at full capacity, right? Because you're living and you're constantly feeling like you're in a state where you wake up tired. You go to sleep. You can sleep.
Right.
9 hours, 8 hours.
Right. I know
10
where you're
hours.
going. Yep. I know
But
where
you
you're going.
wake up feeling sleepy.
Sleepy.
Right?
Yep. Absolutely.
There's a soul, like your mind was able to, you stop for a minute. Your body was able to rest for a second.
Absolutely.
But you're still grieved. You wake up sad. And they say
Talk
they
about
say
it.
you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. Nah. There's some area of your soul that's not really being
Talk about
cultivated,
it.
it's not being well tended to, right?
Yes.
How do we begin to imagine what we can look like, what we can be like if we haven't done those things first? I want to talk about like the priority of that, because I think everybody doesn't look at that as an essential component. They look at that as I'll get to it when I get to it.
Absolutely.
But there's a need to dig deep in that area, just like it is for every other.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
And I love that, T, because I think when we go to college, right? And we're talking about whether you're a traditional student coming in at 18, 19, or a non-traditional student, right? The main focus when you do those college tours, you look at the buildings, the academics, admissions. So now you're in a classroom environment. To your point, right? You're sleep deprived a lot of times, especially around this time, right? You're looking at midterms, finals, right? So if you're not taking care of yourself mentally, you're also maybe not going to the gym, right? During this time, your eating habits, a lot of these different things, right? But let's say you're doing all of those things correctly, but you are grieved. What if mom and dad are struggling at home? they're going through a divorce, right? And you're 20 at campus. What if you lose a sibling? What if you're nervous or scared about the things that for the summertime, right? Like college has been your bubble, but now you got to find an internship or you got to go back to the hood, right? What do you do? So you have all of these things, or you're not doing well in your classes, right? So there's so much stuff there.
Yeah.
But I think the key is, and I like to say this to a lot of students, is where you at when it comes to your soul and spirit, because a lot of times that gets left at home. A lot of students, including myself, is that you go to college and that part of you, for the first time, I don't have to wake up and go to church. I don't have to go to the mosque, right? I'm not on a schedule. But then you start to lose yourself, right? Over those 3, 4, 5 years that you're in college. And I think it plays a big part because a lot of colleges won't talk about that, right?
Right.
They'll talk about the mental health part, and that's key. They'll talk about the physical, but are you attached to a local church? Are you attached to a group that I was part of, A Life, at Rutgers, New Brunswick, right? Like that spiritual part, to be able to know that you have another group, not just on a Sunday, but a Wednesday night or a Thursday night. So I think that is something that I believe institutions of higher ed need to support a little bit more. Like, let's call it for what it is that we see in the numbers, and the data shows that students that are able to encapsulate a strong spiritual acumen are doing better in school, right? And I think that really leads into then you having better outcomes academically, physically, and everything else.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And I think that's really what you're speaking to, is being truly holistic in your approach, because we throw that word out that we want to be holistically supporting our students, but then we leave gaps in areas we're not going to touch that. Like, no, let's be holistic. If we're going to talk about the whole person, let's talk about the whole person, right?
Absolutely.
And I think one element of that too that came to mind when you were speaking is how when we talk about purpose, there's aspects of your being that you see from your soul, but also from your mind.
Yes.
And when it's from your mind, it's typically from a place in the past, right? Because your mind is impressed on and your mind is influenced by the things you've seen. But from your soul is where you see things that you haven't seen before, right?
Yes.
So it's one thing to have a plan. You can plan with your mind.
Yes.
It's another thing to dream.
Yeah.
You dream from the inside, right?
Absolutely.
And that dream gives you a perspective of a desirable future that you haven't seen, but you've experienced within.
Absolutely.
And I want to share that when you spend time imagining what your purpose is supposed to be, it's supposed to challenge you. It's supposed to frustrate you. It's supposed to be something that gives you an inner unction to push in a direction that you've never done before, but you have no other choice but to do it. And it's almost as if you're internally preparing for an outcome that you've never experienced before, which then lies a critical space that we're in right now in this conversation, right? Because how can you even imagine your future if your soul is deprived?
Talk about it. See? Yeah.
You can't. Only thing you can imagine is with your mind a plan, a strategy, which is, all right, what can I do with what I have based on what I've seen and what I've experienced? What happens then when your experiences are not edifying, when your situations are not supporting you? You end up believing that my circumstance is who I am.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And as far as I can see is as far as I can go.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, and I love that, because I a couple words come to mind. Instead of thriving, right, you're just surviving, right?
Yeah.
You're in the ocean and you're just trying to grasp anything, right?
Yeah.
And I think to your point, when you're not connected to your spirit, soul, the holistic part of it, you start to drown, right? And you're just pulling and you're grasping, right? And I think for us being higher ed professionals, we see that often, right? It's like by the time they come to us or get to us, it's too late sometimes, right? It's the 1.8 GPA, it's the 2.0, or it's you know, I'm about to drop out, or, right? Like, so all of those things. So I think the intervention, you know, to understand your purpose going into that environment, I think is key. Right? It's almost like when you get into a car nowadays, right? Back in our day, to get into the car, you had to turn the key, that ignition, right? Right? But guess what? Nowadays, if you're driving anything high end, there is no key, right? So you gotta, right, before if you even try to do that anymore, that you know, that BMW, that Mercedes, that Porsche, whatever it is, if
even
the car,
Hondas is on that,
right, you know, it's like that,
Toyota,
right? Toyota now, right?
Hyundai,
right? Kia, right? Shout out to all the name brands that we're dropping, but I like that because the analogy is, if you're going in with that old mindset, you can't drive the car. Because right now you got to push that button. Right, to start, push button start, and then there's certain cars where it's not even that. Right, so you have to keep up and be in an environment where you know what you're actually getting into. Right, and I think for a lot of college students, and even you know, non-traditional students that are coming in at an older age, right? Like, there's a lot of things before you decide to sign that paper to go back to school that you have to be aware of. I think for us, which has been a blessing, we went to school. Back to school in our 30s, learning how to write papers again, learning how to, you know, source the material again, getting a, you know, possibly a laptop, right? Learning how to all of these things, right, that come at us that are different in that environment, I think are really key to, you know, success.
Now that's really good, and it led me to think about a quote, and this is a shameless plug, but this is a quote that I had for a lot of years, and it's, if your discipline doesn't match your dream, you might as well call it a nightmare.
There you go. It turns into a nightmare.
If your discipline doesn't match your dream, you might as well call it a nightmare. And I think that our ideation phase, when we're talking about our soul being healthy, our soul being in a space where we can see the thing that we haven't seen yet, but we know we deserve it. We know we're supposed to have it, whether that's a family life, whether it's a job, whether it's a community you're supposed to live in, even if it's things you're just supposed to do in the world. Like, that's something that's within you that you can only see if you're at a certain level of wellness, right?
Absolutely.
But your thoughts is where you begin to imagine that, and it's not just dreaming. It's not just dreaming. It's literally training for your purpose. You're beginning to imagine yourself at work. You're beginning to see what the sheetrock looks like in the space that you thought of, right? You're working through it, but then not only that, you begin to work on a higher level because your dream demands it.
Talk about
your dream demands you to come to another level. So there's a certain tenacity that you bring to Monday. There's a certain tenacity you bring to Tuesday, because there's something in me that's frustrating me that I know I won't get it unless I go get it. Absolutely. It's not going to come to me. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to open up my door. It's not going to be like an Amazon Prime delivery, right? Next day delivery, right?
Doesn't work like
same
that,
day delivery,
right?
But that's not how purpose works.
No, and I love that analogy of that quick fix, right? And everything we do nowadays in the culture is, you know, we have our phones. Everything is instant. Yeah. And I think that the journey is also part of the purpose, right? Like, I didn't think 20 some odd years ago that I would be a college professor and attaining a PhD, right? That was a foreign concept. Yeah. But I see now, looking back and reflecting back, is that there was something inside of me that always dreamed about being in the classroom. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what type of classroom it was going to be. And it started off at middle school, then it went to high school, then I went back to high school, then it went to college. So I think that the journey of your purpose also, the purpose may stay the same, but the journey is going to take some time to get there, right? Yeah. And to your point, T, you can't become this until you master this. And one of the things my mother always used to say is that you gotta master the little things, right? And if we look at this wall right here, you know, you have Michael Jordan, you have Kobe, Jay-Z, Denzel, right? Obama, they came from humble beginnings, right? They had to start small and then they built, right, step by step. And the work ethic is key. And I think the resiliency, once you realize what your purpose is, you're going to be knocked down, but and it sounds, it sounds cliched, but you'll have that resiliency to say, okay, I see what I need to do. This is part of the process.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. And I think even when you talk about the names of so many different powerful, successful gentlemen behind us, there's this formula that you constantly see of them being among a group, but then they emerge out of that group as a leader, a thought leader, an artistic leader. In some kind of a way,
that's good.
They rise to the top. And I think that rising is something that we think is for other people. And we look at people as if, man, that can't be me. But I really believe that there's something that we have to all be aware that sometimes your glass ceiling is broken when you stop explaining your vision and purpose to small minds.
Absolutely. I like that. I love that. Yeah. You got to be around the right people.
Your circles sometimes have to change. The people who you're speaking, like sometimes if there's something within you that and I'll even take it on a base level, just going to school, especially if you haven't been in an environment where everyone are educated or are pursuing education as a pathway. If you're 35, 45, 55, 65, 75 years old and you say, hey, I'm going to continue my education, there's probably more likely than not some people who's going to ask you a 3-letter word over and over again. Why? Why are you doing that?
Yes.
You have, and they'll tell you every reason under the sun why you can't do it. Oh, you have kids, right? But what I love is when students say the reason I have to do it is because I have these kids.
Absolutely. People
will tell you, man, you got to work. How are you going to do this? Well, that's the reason I have to do it, because I don't want to work the same way I'm working right now. So I got to do it.
Yes.
And it's like you have to end up reversing everything that's been put against you.
Yes.
But then at some point you realize, you know what? If all I'm getting from the people around me are objections, then maybe I need to silence those spaces by keeping those things to myself for a season, or finding spaces where those thoughts are affirmed so that I can actually break through versus continually be tempted to turn around and go backwards.
And that's good. And we know each other, but I didn't know where this would go. But I think the encouragement with that, T, is, I lost my mom in September. And what you just said is her story.
Wow.
She was married with a teenage son, myself, and she wanted something better for herself, but also her family. Wow. So what you're saying is that she saw a vision, right? She didn't want to be in the same place 10, 15, 20 years. And she went back to school. And to your point, she went back part-time, so she worked full-time, went part-time to Fordham. It took about I think she went back in 92, 93, 94, and it took almost 10 years for her to finish her undergraduate degree. But when she finished, right, to your point, those naysayers, right, her family, her friends, right, but what happened is the fruit of that, the next job she had, she was able to travel to Germany, she was able to travel to Canada, right? If she doesn't have the BA, she's not in those positions to be able to do those things that she loved to do, which is travel to provide for her family, right? And then come full circle, as she got into her 60s, she saw her friends. Her friends were maxed out, right? And we sometimes, I think we sometimes feel that, well, that piece of paper doesn't matter. It matters, because we're in the real world, right? If the piece of paper doesn't necessarily change who I am at the core of who Terrence is, who Anthony is. But what it does change, though, that piece of paper, it gives you access to new doors. And those new doors that are gonna open, they not only affect Terrence, they don't only affect Anthony, but they also affect our kids, their kids, right? So there's a reason why people go back to school, right? It's because you're really setting a new generational, I would say, pathway. And we can't deny that, right? We can't deny that that piece of paper, that BA, that associates, that certificate opens doors for just new opportunities.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Firstly, I appreciate you sharing that because like you said, I never knew that her story was as such. But that was encouraging to me just to hear that, and to also to hear how this is so practical, and this isn't new. This is what people have been doing, but we're not always able to hear these stories, right? So I thank you for sharing that in this space, and I think what it also shows is how when you speak about tenacity, when you speak about pushing past all the reasons to not do it, right? Like we were just sharing about, I think it shows a formula that we as purposeful people have to get into the mindset of turning red lights into green lights.
I like that.
I think of those movies when you have like the spies.
Yeah.
And they're in a situation where they're in a heist. I love those types of movies.
Me too.
And you always have a man in the chair in those situations, right? And they'll say, all right, after we get the goods, I'm gonna need you to control the street lights so that they all turn from green to red for the other folks and the cops, so it holds up traffic. But for me, it goes from red to green. And you go.
I like that.
And I feel like we have to be our own man in the chair.
We do.
Where we say, where there was fear, which is a red light, we're gonna make it green. We're gonna have faith. You know? Where there was a fear, oh, I may not have enough. We're going to make it green. I'm more than enough. And I'm going to go get what belongs to me.
I love that.
When you have a red light that may say, oh, I'm not smart enough. We're going to have a green light that says there's resources, there's everything that's within me and everything around me that's going to support me to get to my goal. And I'm going to get it by any means necessary.
I love that.
This is the language that we have to use for ourselves, because if not, we'll get stuck at the first light and never get to the destination.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what we see so much, right? In our communities, in our families, are frustrated people who've become so common with frustration that we normalize it.
We do.
And we don't see anyone that's achieving, anyone that's pursuing, anyone that's growing. You're just waiting to die.
Yeah, and I love that, T. And you inspire me so much, because just even your journey, right, of being able to go back to school with 2 kids, a beautiful wife, a full-time job. I mean, that's inspiring, right? You didn't have to, right? But there was something inside you said that I'm going to go back to school, complete this mission, and it's going to open up new doors, not just for you, but your family. And I love what you said, and I think it goes back to this wall, which I keep looking at, and I love it, is that it's not so much the accomplishments. It's really, what did they come from, right? Like, you know, MLK, right?
Origin stories.
Right, the origin story.
Yeah.
MLK, I mean, come on, in a segregated, you know, America coming out of it, right? But his dad was a pastor, right? You have, you know, Tyler Perry, homeless at one point, right? Michael Jordan wasn't Michael Jordan. He was Mike Jordan his freshman year. You know what I mean? Until he hit that, you know, the game winner shit, right?
Yeah.
So they're all coming from the part. It took Michael Jordan 8 years to win his first chip, right? So I think that's what I try to inspire students to look at, not so much the end and what they accomplished, but the beauty in their journey, right? Like Ali, right? He couldn't fight. He was banned from fighting, right? Because he didn't want to serve in the U.S., you know, military for Vietnam, right? So the struggle. So that's what I'm at the stage that I'm at in life, is trying to find the beauty in the struggle. Enjoy the struggle, because any level that you get to, anything that's worth having, it's going to be a struggle. Kiki, with this business, it's not just boom, the business is here, right? You got to deal with the contractors, you got to paint it, you got to build the foundation. And I think for our community, we have to see more of that at the foundational piece, not just leave it up to our you know, our school systems a lot of times to teach us that. It has to really come from within our families.
I love that. I love that. And what I'm hearing is falling in love with the journey.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because it's not an immediate process. You said that earlier. It's not fly by night. It's not next day delivery. It's a process. As soon as you begin to imagine it, you then have to go down the road to get there.
Yes, sir.
And that road is what people don't want to have to travel.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
I think of just like my journey physically, because maybe a year and a half ago, I was about 40 more pounds heavier. And actually, with full transparency, I went to the doctor and they said, hey, we see hypertension here.
Wow.
And high blood pressure is something that is serious.
Very serious.
Heart disease runs in my family. And I said, hey, I got to do something about this.
Yes, you do.
And I began to make changes. It hasn't always been a straight slope, but I found a rhythm, and that rhythm has caused me to lose a lot of that weight. And now I'm in a healthy space. Doctors taking me off those pills and such.
I love it.
And I'm excited for life.
And you look good.
Thank you, my brother.
And what I say looks good. This is nice. This is nice. When you're able to wear leather, a short sleeve, you're doing something right. So you're doing something right. I love it.
Your inspiration. Hey, I'll throw this out there just from a standpoint of modeling, right? And talking about friends being and the people who you associate with being good models. This is the first brother who I've had lunch with who ordered a salad. And it was like a Saturday. And he was like, I'll have a salad and I'm good. I'm like, whoa, like, what we on? I'm just on cheesesteak, wing, pizza, give me everything. And he said, I'm good with a salad. I'm good. So,
and it goes back to your point, right? The discipline. Right. I see myself prayerfully living a long life. And to your point, brother.
Say it again.
Prayerfully, I see myself living a long life,
yeah.
right? But I know that I have to do certain things at this age to continue that because, to your point, Terrence, I've seen host of family members. My grandmother was a smoker, and guess what? She had diabetes and, had a leg amputated, my mother's COPD, so life choices, right?
Yeah.
That have impacted their ability to live long lives, but also, too, the quality of life, right? So I love that point that you made. When you see something, right, you're willing to sacrifice.
Yeah.
I want to see my grandkids. I still want to be able to go out and do things with them, but
right.
I can't do that if I'm filling myself up physically, spiritually, mentally with just garbage. It's not going to work.
And I think what that speaks to also is the emotional appetite that we live with, where we almost justify unhealthy things just because of how it makes me feel in the moment. Because what I found was that I'm an emotional eater.
Right.
I never gave myself that title in the moment, but I've learned that when I begin to recomposition my day to day. Like, well, why is it that I want to eat Haagen-Dazs every day? Why is it that I want fried shrimp on a Wednesday, but then fried wings on a Thursday,
yes,
and then something else fried on a like, what is it? And what I learned is a lot of times when we talk about emotionally eating, you would say, hey, someone who emotionally eats must be sad. But I'm the opposite.
Right.
When I'm happy, I want to eat something that makes me feel good.
To celebrate.
So if it's Wednesday and I'm done with work for the day, it's hump day.
Let's go.
We're gonna eat good. Mac and cheese me.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Collard greens, all of that.
Right.
And it's like at the end of the day, when nighttime, the kids are in bed. This is a great time for some Haagen-Dazs.
Let's do it.
And I say Haagen-Dazs is something special.
Right.
If you don't, this is not a plug for Haagen-Dazs, but I can't acknowledge this ice cream without talking about how uniquely special Haagen-Dazs is. I did some research on this. I said, why does this ice cream have me in a chokehold?
And I like it. Right.
It had me in a chokehold. When I tell you the way that I would, if I was to analogy the ice cream.
Okay.
There's an old story. It's like a childhood story. You may remember this.
Okay.
But it's called The Emperor's New Clothes.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
And they talked about these Emperor's New Clothes. It was so amazing that the king, because someone else spoke about it so good, he was walking around with nothing on. But was like, they think it looks good. It got to be good. I said Haagen-Dazs tastes like the Emperor's New Clothes. Wow. Because it's so rich.
Yeah.
And I said, why is this ice cream so good? I'm sorry for this pivot, y'all. I hope y'all checking with me though. I did research.
Okay.
And the research proved that Haagen-Dazs has the maximum amount of fat in it for it to still be called ice cream legally.
Wow.
Because if they put another gram of fat in it, it would have to be called lard.
Wow.
And I said, my God,
Wow.
I've been eating what's close to lard
Lard.
every single night for the past however many days, wondering why my body's in crisis. But
Yeah.
it made me feel good, and I was committed to it. Like I would look for the deals, and I would buy Haagen-Dazs in bulk
Wow.
because it's not a cheap ice cream either.
It's not.
But I'd buy it in bulk, and I would have a supply of something that was literally killing me
Absolutely.
because it made me feel a certain way.
Well, but I want to go a little deeper, right?
Let's go.
Because I think, especially for people in general, but even if we're talking about students, right? Not just ice cream, right? We talk about some of the unhealthy habits, right? We talk about drinking, we talk about sexual relations, right? All of these things that can be very much prevalent on a college campus, or even off of a college campus, right? But I love what you mentioned before, T, when you said you had to get to an emotional regulation of figuring out why on a Wednesday or a Saturday that you were craving or looking forward to that. And I think that's for all of us, right? It may not be Haagen-Dazs ice cream. It might be something more serious.
There it is.
But like, why am I reaching out to this particular person that might not be good for me when maybe I'm feeling sad?
Yeah.
Or how do I react when I get a bad grade on a test? Am I picking up the bottle? Right? Am I then going scrolling on YouTube? What am I doing with these emotions?
Yeah.
Right? And I think that is part of the holistic part that we're talking about
Absolutely.
today, which is key. How do we regulate? Right? Like the emotional part is good, but what are we responding with? Right.
Yes.
And if that response is negative,
Yes.
right? And you gotta find your rhythm. I like what you said earlier. You gotta find your rhythm, right? Like, being vulnerable. Just recently divorced, right? Within the last 4 months, right? The hardest part for me at this point is when I drop the kids off, right? Like that emotional part, right? I had to find a rhythm. What do I do now with that time, right? It could be something where it could get really deep and dark. Or do I turn it into a positive, right? And I don't always win, but it is, what do I do? Do I order 16 wings and just, wild out, right? Go to the club? I could do that, right? But with the time, right?
Hey, but I have to pause for the cause real quick.
Yeah.
Y'all noticed he said for his wild out is 16 wings.
Might be more for you. I don't know.
Man, I would order 20 wings by myself, and that's a regular day. That's not wilding out. This is just a regular day.
For me, right.
Yeah, wild out, 16 wings.
That's it. That's the cutoff. 16 wings, right? So,
but continue,
but I think everyone's wilding out will look different.
Right. Facts,
But
facts. No judgment.
No judgment.
What they say, we listen and we don't judge.
And we don't judge,
Yeah.
right? But how do we turn it into a positive? So, one of the positives is, going to the gym. I did something this week I haven't done in maybe 15 years, where I teach at Rutgers. They have a dance studio. Put the headphones on and danced in the mirror. When's the last time you've actually danced in front of a mirror since you were a teenager or a kid, right? So even finding that joy again of being a kid. What do I like to do, right? Like, what does T like to do? Students, what do you like to do that is not conditioned by what the environment is saying, right? Because on college campuses, right, there's so many things that are conditioned that you should do. But what do you really enjoy? And I think that's a key part of purpose as well, is finding the joy in what speaks directly to you.
Yeah. No, I think that's really good, and I think what you spoke to was so rich, man. There's so much out of that, but I want to go back a little bit from that standpoint of you recognizing that certain things need to change. And the words that came to my mind was reverse engineering toward the success that you want to see. And what I found is, as I've been on my journey, as you talked about yours, is that I don't need the same external motivators in order to do the things that I've always wanted to do. Like back in the day, there's one time I injured myself working out in the gym because the song changed.
Yes.
And my back was out for a while because the song went from one song that I was feeling, and then it changed to something that I wasn't.
That's good.
I tried to change the song while I got the weight on my back. Bad idea. And I was down for a little bit. But now I'm at the point where I can have a whole workout session and it can be an audiobook.
I love that.
Or on some moments, I literally can put on some soul music that's really slow vibe and be lifting heavy weight. And I'm just in a zone where it's like, I'm not pulling from that.
Yes.
I'm pulling on myself.
Yes, from within you now.
From within, it's coming from within me. Like I'm able to dig deep because I know that there's something deep within me that's worth it, that's credible. There's a value that I'm connected to where I don't need outside affirmation. And that's the sweet spot that I believe everyone has within them but doesn't always recognize it. When you know who you are, when you discover what's within you, it doesn't matter who's around you. I know what I'm here for, and I'm gonna go get it.
You're gonna get it.
I'm gonna go live it. I'm gonna pursue with everything that's within me what I know is within me. Because if I don't, that feels like death.
That's good.
You know, and there's a quote where somebody says, "If I don't kill it, then I ain't gonna eat."
Absolutely, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And I feel, I mean, I know that we're on the podcast, but hopefully you can feel the intensity that T has, right? And it reminded me of The Last Dance.
The Last Dance?
That story there reminded me of The Last Dance.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan. Michael was on the bus.
You know, wait, I don't mean to pivot again.
Yeah.
But I thought he was talking about Save the Last Dance.
No. Where we going?
Because I was still stuck on the dancing in the mirror.
Right. The connection. Right. Here we go. We're not doing that, but yeah.
I'm with you. All right, so The Last Dance.
See,
Michael Jordan.
Right, Michael Jordan's The Last Dance.
I'm with you.
And the intensity that you had,
Yeah.
right, reminded me of the scene. If anyone remembers, if not, go play it. I forgot what episode it is.
Yeah.
But he's on the bus, and he has the old school headphones on, and he's listening to a slow song by Kenny Lattimore. And people, the memes and everything, were like he should be listening to Eminem, he should be listening to Wu-Tang, but Mike didn't need that to get ready for the game. He was already ready for the game.
Yeah.
And that's what it sounds like. T, you're in that sweet spot, whereas you don't need all the loud music, you don't need the hip hop and all that. Now, if you play it, that's great, but you don't need it to get you to...
It's not my source.
No. Your source is directly tied to where you're going.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Whatever you're listening to, that's the sweet spot. And I think that's the journey. Right, that's the journey that our students are on. That's the journey families are on. People are on. How do you get to a sweet spot where you really know what you need for yourself? And that's gonna, of course, look different from the person next to you.
I love that, and I think that might even be the title for this episode, the sweet spot, because really that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you find your sweet spot that's signed by your spirit?
I like that.
Right?
That definitely has to be the title.
Woo!
I like that.
Like, because at the core of it, there's a piece of you that you can't live in unless you're tapped in that way. And if you're outside of the sweet spot is when everything is more difficult. You're working harder. You're spending more energy. There's things that say, if I work harder, I'll have a better life. But we know that's not true.
That's not true.
The people that work hardest in businesses are not the ones who get paid the most.
Absolutely.
The hardest working person in a hotel is not the owner. It's not Mr. Hilton. It's the people who do the house cleaning services, the housekeeping, you know? And it's like at the end of the day, it's like, what is your goal and what do you want to pursue? And do I want my energy to be validated by just saying, well, I worked hard? Is working hard the value, or is accomplishment, success, setting a goal and meeting the goal, right? And I think sometimes the issues is that our goals are set by external sources.
Absolutely.
Versus by us being aware enough of self to see what our goals really should be. For some of us, our thinking and our mindset is too small.
Definitely.
There's some people who are thinking about an associate's degree when you should be thinking about a master's degree.
Absolutely.
And your pace, your tenacity, your grit, as you're taking these classes, is going to look way different when you know I still got a ways to go after this versus, well, I'm just going to see what happens when I get there. There's a whole lot of see what happens kind of people around nowadays.
Absolutely.
I'm just going to go and see what happens.
And you can't live life like that. I remember the intentionality even last year. at this time, I remember T and I having a conversation, and I might have teased him and said, one day, man, you're gonna be a doctor. You're gonna have that doctorate degree, right? When your friends and people say those things, don't take that lightly. They're breathing life into you, right? Like my mom bought me a cup 3-4 years ago that said Dr. Jones. I wasn't even in a doctoral program. I was getting ready to apply, but like the vision, right? So now you're on your way, having that master's degree, walking in May, that's a proud moment, but I can even see it in you. It's like with the conversations we had, you're not stopping, right? There's the red light is no longer like, no, we green. We going. Why not?
We lit.
Right. we going. Let's go. And I think that's what happens when you start to gain that confidence, and then it's aligned with your purpose. Because now it's just like, right, T, you're probably like, I could have done this years ago. Like,
I'll say I can't, because my journey led it to where now I'm in my sweet spot.
Got it.
And just like you mentioned, Jordan, it took 8 years to get that first chip.
Okay.
I was in my 8-year season, and now I'm in my year of championships, where all I do is win.
And that's the name of the podcast. I love it.
All I do is win. This is real. This isn't
right.
So this isn't about just branding. This isn't about marketing. This is about life.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we all have a winning season within us.
Absolutely.
That we have to decide, hey, I'm done with losing.
Yeah.
And recognizing that a lot of times we'll look at our circumstances, our situations, our zip code, our parents, our bank accounts as the reasons that we're losing. At the core, what we'll find is that the only reason I'm losing, the only thing I can truly blame is the common denominator that's always present, and that's me.
You gotta look in the
What
mirror.
is it that I haven't done to support my success? What is it that I haven't changed to make sure that I get to where I need to go?
I love that.
And when I identify that, when I see what it is that's within me, that I haven't addressed, that I haven't touched, that I haven't changed, that I haven't cultivated, then I get to this new place where it's like, man, if I'm gonna remove my trauma out the way, if I remove my weakness out the way, if I put the Haagen-Dazs away, then the version of me that shows up can only do one thing.
Yeah, it's win.
And that's win.
Yeah, I love that. And I would say that you winning then affects your circle, right? That's good. It just bounces, right? It's just like we win together then. You know what I mean? Like just seeing you and your perseverance and the life that you lead, then it can inspire me. I take some of that from you. And that's what the greats do, right? It's like you're building upon the greats, So when I see, this Mr. Jones, Terrence Jones, I take a little part, I build from that. I take some from someone else and I build from that. And you see it on this wall here, right? I mean, Kobe built upon Michael, right? Michael built a little bit on Dr. J and David Thompson, right? What do you call it? Malcolm and Ali, and they were friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you're constantly building upon the greats. You take pieces of them, and then you say, hey, some of the things you could put your little dash of, you would say the sweet spot, that your own sweet spot to make it your own. So yeah, I'm just excited for what the future holds for 2025 and beyond, for not only yourself but for myself, but also for our greater community, because I know that we'll continue to do great things.
Indeed, and I'm glad that our community through this pathway is expanding so much broader than just who we could ever touch and see and get to speak to personally. But I'm really excited about that. We're gonna land the plane here.
Let's do it.
I'd love to hear any closing thoughts. We talked about so much. I think I love what you mentioned just a second ago about like almost making a mentor and out of anyone, and finding a way to grab value out of just the people that are around you so that you can level up in life and toward the purpose that's within you. But we spoke about so much. What would be some closing comments that you give to our students, our audience, anyone that's listening?
Well, I think for the students, my main thing is, which Terrence Jones mentioned, is don't let fear get in the way. I think we all wake up every morning. We have the same amount of hours in the day. The difference is how we respond to it. And a lot of times the fear of not starting is a critical component of that. Very briefly, My son, we switched him from schools. He's 9. He just turned 9, but the school that he was at wasn't working. And I said, well, we're going to try a different school. It's only for 4 months. But the fear, right, of meeting new classmates again, new teachers, right? But we had a conversation 2 weeks ago on the ride home, and I said, would you go back to the old school? And, thankfully he said no, right? Because he stepped into it, right? Embrace it,
Nice.
right? Embrace the fear, because all of us are gonna have fear at a certain point, but you can't let it stop you from going to get your associate's degree, getting that certificate, and then moving past that, right? And then being able to share those stories and giving back. So I think for the students or even incoming students, it's gonna be rocky sometimes, and that's okay, but that's why you have the great people at Pierce College. You also have great people like Terrence Jones that can show you the way. So that's really my encouragement for the next generation of students.
Man, once again, thank you so much for being with us today. You added so much value.
Appreciate it, my
so much value to the pod, to the
Thank
space.
you, thank you.
I feel full
I
of
do
the right
too.
stuff.
Yes, of the right stuff. Right. Even though I might want to get some Haagen-Dazs after this, you know what I mean? Right.
I'm staying away from it.
Okay.
Yeah. That's on my non-negotiable list. That's another podcast. But you need to have a list of non-negotiables where you know what you don't need to mess with at all.
Right.
Haagen-Dazs is on my list. But listen, I look forward to the next time that we connect. I know that we'll have more episodes, and you definitely have to come back.
I appreciate it,
Look
my
forward
brother.
to those opportunities. But until next time, firstly, I want to thank everyone who was able to join us today in the room. If we could put our hands together one more time. So thank you for this space just being allotted to us. Thank you, Kiki. Thank you, 387 Grooming.
Yes, beautiful
and
place.
yeah, all I do is win podcasts. I can guarantee you we'll have another one. And until next time, peace.